Hello, welcome to a midwinter bulb log video diary garden walk. A few things I'll speak about as I go briefly around the garden, but really what I want to do is end up in the bulb houses to show you all the beautiful little Narcissus, the dwarf bulbicodium hook petticoat Narcissus that are in flower just now. So we'll end up round there shortly, but here as I'm standing on the back doorstep looking out, we've got the bonsais. Now, I've trained all of these bonsais myself for in excess of 40 years. They've been growing in pots. And these are the long-term survivors. It tends to be the evergreens, the coniferous, that survive better. I'm not very good at keeping the acers or the deciduous trees. I don't give them constant attention when they need it. So these guys that are still here are real tough survivors. But I want to look really at the garden and see what we've got to look forward to. I can come down and see in the cobble bed already the growth of leaves from the bulbs. The growth I'm seeing is not the spring growth so much as the leaves coming from the autumn flowering crocus. A few things I will not point out is the primroses are coming through, so Primula vulgaris. This is a vulgaris. Over there you can just see there, not quite so advanced, Primula veris. And there, right at the base of the tree, is another primrose. And at the right hand side, so that one is a primrose. And you'd wonder, is that the right place to plant it? Because it would be too dry and too much competition. But this is a method I learnt from looking at them growing in the wild, where so often in a woodland the best primroses are growing right at the base of the tree, often in the buttress of the roots. And it took me a while to realise that while it might be dry under the tree canopy, the umbrella effect of the tree, preventing moisture getting through. Moisture in all sorts of conditions, even thick mist, runs down the trunk and goes into the ground at the base of the trunk. So there we go, there's a lesson we can learn from nature. So the bonsai trees, so that's a nice twin trunked one of my favourites, and some single trunked ones. The wee scrappy one there is it got buried in amongst undergrowth, and I lost the lower branches, so I'm trying to rebuild it. Now then, what have we got? I'm still picking up leaves. I haven't got the weather's not been suitable. It's still a bit damp. I've got shall we say, the worst of them away, but there's an awful lot still to get up. But what is good is to see look at the buds pushing through. I think that's a little snowdrop. I think that's a galanthus. We'll see. You'll see later when it's out. I'll be round again. I've done a semi-tidy up on the beds as well. I've cut down most of the big stuff, but to get there, hopefully this week, I'll get out and get a final tidy. I'm not speaking about tidying away the leaves. The leaves are just a natural mulch that are on these beds. They'll break down and be taken down by the worms and go in and feed the organic life in the soil. I will take the leaves off of this bed at this side though, because this is the rock garden bed, or it was the rock garden bed, and there's a lot of little plants in here and they don't like being buried in leaves. The cyclamen, we come right down and look under the cyclamen, look at all the babies. seedlings right underneath the plant, so it's another job I have to do, is come masses of them. Look at the more over there, all around. Is I'll carefully lift some of those before they get their roots too far down. They'll mostly just be rooting into the moss, and I'll be able to prick them out in other places and let them grow away there, rather than having to compete with the parent. Round here there's plenty more snowdrops showing. The galanthus are really pushing through early this year. The buds, there's one or two of our early ones. We don't have too many of the very early flowering ones. There's another one over there showing. This one's already been eaten by a slug or a snail, more than likely a slug at this time of year. So just a quicker flip around the garden. You can see the trunks of the, not so much a tree, well it is a tree, but it's a rhododendron. Trying to get so it's not so dark. Looking up, going all above my head. And the big trees. You can see the leaves piled up into these beds, so I'll scoop them off the path. I already have scooped them off the path. This is a whole new lot down. So I'll scoop all these off the path and throw them out into the bed, where they'll form a lovely mulch. But you can see how the cyclamen come through everywhere. The ferns cracking down in the It won't be long before I'm walking around here showing you all the bulbs coming through in the early growth. I always end up with these paths. I clear them several times every year of the leaves, at this time of year I'm speaking about. Again, these beds had a bit of a tidy, but not their final tidy. I haven't done any tidying in this area yet. You can see that from all the dried stems, the seed heads, the erythroniums, the zalliums, all the seed heads, the ferns dying back. I'll cut them back. There's a nice snowdrop. I didn't used to have any snowdrops in this bed, but this last year I've been popping odd things in here. So we've got a few snowdrops there as well. Partly because I'm running out of other places to put them. Solmicias are always good value at this time of year. They're good value at any time, but the lovely narrow silver leaves of lilac. And there's an offset from some of the other species. Down here, a nice group of little snowdrops coming through beside what remains of a pigeon that got eaten by the sparrowhawk. And here is the base of where we lost a tree. We lost a little acer. I don't know if it just got too old and died, or if it was the prolonged droughts we got a few years back ago, whatever. So under here, this has just become one of my weedy patches. Literally, I've been sowing weedy seeds to make this. I use the words weedy not as derogatory, but wildflowers, so native and wildflowers. The plants that just seed around and don't need much work. They just will grow themselves. So let's move now from the garden to the bulb houses. 3 bulb houses, and not so many years ago all the staging was cram full of plants in pots, above and below. But over the last number of years, as I've got older, I've been cutting back, severely cutting back the number, because it was just becoming too much to repot. So the ones in pots, we've still got some in pots. They flop about, the birds come in here and knock them over, and they do get long and spindly. But the ones in pots they start to flower a bit later. I mean, you can see, you look in there, all the buds. There's masses of buds coming. And these are all in 11 centimetre pots. Here's one with lots and lots of buds. This is Craigton Clumper. And they're all different ones. I mean, this is a lovely, I quite like the deeper yellow ones. This one could be, trying to see its leaves. Oh my goodness. Look at that big grass. I'll have to come back when I can use 2 hands and get that grass weed out. I don't want that robbing all the nutrients out of the soil in the pot. That looks like it's one of the ones, a bulbicodium cross. And here's a snowdrop that's been in flower for a while. This is one of the few Regina algae that survives for us. They don't grow in the garden, I can only keep them inside. So these are all mostly in 11 centimetre pots. You have some here in 7 centimetre pots. And they're well budded as well. So lots to come. Through here, this was the propagating house where we used to do all the propagating, and now it's became an overspill for some of the Narcissus. A work area here. What's interesting here is, look, here's seeded into the sand here is a little Tropiolum azurium dangling down there, and most of the growth's going down there, but it comes from there. That very spindly little stem. The seed around in the bulbs, in the sands, that's all Tropiolum azurium up there. And then just look at this massive Narcissus flowering here. All sorts of shapes and sizes. I mean, look, tiny ones compared to a big one. Just like the plants in the garden, the snowdrops, I don't keep the names the same, and these, don't ask me what they are, because they're all mostly hybrids, but there's some really lovely little things here. I know this is Craigton Chalice, from that very distinctive shape. That's what you want in a named snowdrop, is something that's so distinctive you can pick it out. You can see the deeper yellow ones. And they're just growing in pure sharp sand. And this will keep us in flower for all the way through the winter. And this was my first area where I started the sand beds. Just planting the bulbs straight into sand, and you don't need to repot them every year. There's not a lot of work in that sense, but if there's an issue, it comes when they get so crowded because they multiply and they get so many that you have to thin them down a wee bit for their own good, so you have to spread them around. And that's what happened with this wee bit here. This was some of the spares that I took up and put in here. I'm just saying, here's another Tropiolum azurium here. I've just found that one. So where's it come from? Oh, it's down here as well, so it's coming from there. So let's go down, and with the success of that bulb house and the sand bed, I decided to build, well, not build because it was already built, but in pots, convert another. And now we grow very few bulbs in pots. So here we go, here's all the other Narcissus here. And let's just do a wee, like a swoop across like a drone, except I'm the drone droning on here. I mean, that's a lovely, beautiful wee hoop petticoat there, deep yellow. You compare that to this pale, flat-faced, wide open, petunioid type shape, and then you get those of a more bell shape. You get paler ones, pale yellow, and then we get some of the more tubular shaped. Here's a little group. Turn your little face round to the camera. That's it. Show everyone how beautiful you are. There's another little group. As you can see, that group's all coming up from a single spot, and I've just spotted another grass weed. The grass does get in here, and I keep pulling it out, but I never get it all. And as I say, it only needs to succeed once to shed some seed for it to give you a problem again the next year. But I just pull them out. See, they come out of the sand. See the lovely root formation you get growing in sand. Anyway, I'll come back and do that rather than another group there. We've got the warming cables, there's the cable going, so these electric warming cables in the base, and I always kept it on a thermostat so they never froze in the winter. But since the electric prices and the energy costs went up so much, we couldn't afford to do that. So for the last few years there's been no protection at all, and the last long period we had of cold, 2 winters ago was it, we lost an awful lot of bulbs. We lost a lot of them, but interestingly it was in this bed, and as you can see there's very few in here. I'm repopulating this bed with other plants, other bulbs, rather than just the Narcissus. And the ones in here survive better, so it makes a big difference about the sand and the temperature, how you keep them. So it's a lovely learning process for me, because that's what gardening's about. It's about learning, observing, and adjusting what you do to suit the plants and keep them happy. So there's a rough idea of what's going on in the garden at this time of year. So I'll leave you with the beautiful sight of a host of not so golden daffodils. So thanks for being with me. I'll be back when this spring flowers start to burst out. Oh, I've just remembered one thing I wanted to show you, and it's just here. It's how the weather mixes plants up. They get confused just like we do. midwinter and look at all the flowers in this rhododendron pachysanthum. It shouldn't flower until about another 4 months. But the mild autumn and also mild winter, it started to flower early. And then we got a cold spell and the most advanced flowers got frosted. But there's still some surviving and they're pinging out. They're not their full glory as they would be in the spring, but it just shows you how plants rely on steady seasons to do the thing that we expect them to do. So there I will end it, folks. Thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy gardening.